Welcome to Women Leadership Nation's Breaking Barriers podcast. We want to help you continue to learn and grow. So after listening to today's inspiring guest, head on over to womenleadershipnation.com and sign up for our mailing list. You will receive exclusive content, updates, and new podcast episodes delivered right to your inbox. On today's show, we speak with an ambitious woman who has a unique story and is passionate about connecting with people in her community and building meaningful relationships. She's humble in her success and says she is lucky to be a part of a culture that gave her the chance to jump at opportunities that continue to help her learn and grow. She is the national COO and Toronto office market leader at RSM, an amazing tax and accounting firm. We are so happy to have Rhonda Klosler on the show with us today. Keep listening as she gives us a sneak peek into her organization's culture and what they are doing to help support women in the workplace. And now introducing your host, co-founder and president of Women Leadership Nation, Jennifer Ladouceur.
So thanks so much for being on this podcast today.
Thanks for including me, Jennifer.
Absolutely. So I start this question off with everybody. So when you were younger, what did you want to be?
I wanted to be a vet. I love animals. And I'm not even sure I was very good in science in grade school or high school, actually. But for some reason, I just had this affinity to animals, and I still do. Although the bubble was burst probably when I was, early teens, when I discovered I'm allergic to basically everything that has four legs.
Oh no, so that's not going to work.
So there was a quick pivot, and it's kind of, it's one of those things, again, I still think about often, just, and it's interesting because my oldest son has the exact same aspirations, and he too is allergic to everything. So we're trying to redirect him a little bit now, but yeah. So yeah. I wanted to be a vet, and yet then I became an accountant. So I don't know. I guess at the opposite end of the spectrum.
No, it's really interesting. I mean, we've in some of the podcast interviews that I've done recently, it's so amazing to see such a diverse interest. And then sometimes people even going back to that later in life as well. You being allergic, there's probably no chance of that, but it's really interesting, right? So what?
No, but on that point, yeah. Interestingly, again, I grew up in a small community with a very humble beginnings. In fact, my brother and I were the first kids on both sides of our families to go to university. So, and I share that with some context, or as some context to the story. But I also wanted to play piano as a kid, and my parents just didn't have the ability to make that happen. And so, again, it's something that I continue to think about. I'm not musical at all whatsoever. Like, it's terrible. I'm not musical. But it's something that I keep thinking about, and I said to my husband recently, because our kids both take music, I've said to my husband recently, I'd love to take up piano. And he said, what are you thinking? Like, because I'm so busy already, but you don't have time for this. Do that when you retire. So to your point, maybe I'll take it up later on down the road, right?
I think you should. Yeah, I think you should.
So absolutely. Well, we'll see. We'll think about it. But yeah. As long as there isn't a test at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Just for fun. So what led you to your career now then? So you had an interest in accounting, and how did you get started?
Yeah. So, it's interesting how life kind of works out, right? And my path was perhaps not as intentional as others, but when I realized that I couldn't be a vet because I'm allergic to everything, and you're in high school again, I was in a very small community. So the guidance counselor My teachers had a lot of influence. My parents, although wonderful parents and very loving environment, really had no idea, like what, okay, well, you're going to go away to school. What are some of the options that are available to you? So your teachers and your guidance counselors really become that sort of guiding influence, right? And, as a lot of accountants would say, I had an affinity for math, so it just was a natural progression. And I started to look into programs that, university programs that had a cooperative program attached to it, because I wanted to get the experience as well as the technical training. And so I ended up going to a university here in Ontario that had a co-op program that after my first 8 months, I was at my first work placement. So I knew pretty quickly that, I enjoyed what this world of accounting was, because I ended up in a placement with an accounting firm. So it was kind of it wasn't as intentional. Like, I didn't realize out of the gate I wanted to do accounting. It was a connection to math, but then I chose a smaller university, coming from a smaller community. Community and people have always been very important to me. So I didn't want to feel lost in a mass. So I chose a smaller university, and for that same reason, I chose a smaller firm to go to. And truthfully, I never left that firm. It's been iterations of it, but I only ever applied for one job, and I've spent my entire career there. And of course, it's evolved, and the organization's evolved, and I've evolved. But that was kind of, I think that makes me unique. Certainly, as I talk to people, when we're interviewing, or just if I'm on campus or I'm out in the marketplace, I think a lot of people have a lot of variety and different employers, and I really have only ever had one, which kind of makes me unique.
I actually don't think I've ever spoken to anybody that's only had one. That's amazing. You definitely are loyal.
Yeah, well, I think a big part of it, though, is that, like I said, for me, community was always really important. And so I felt like that choice I made in a firm, it was a great choice for me. It was a great fit. Yeah. And it was an organization that, again, I think there was probably 8 partners at the time and about 50 staff. But they gave a lot of responsibility early on. I think they called it the sink or swim theory. And I was very ambitious, and I wanted to be successful. So I took on all the responsibility that came my way. And truthfully, because I'm not from Toronto, which is where we're located now, and community meant so much to me, those people became part of my community, and it was a great fit. And then over time, it just evolved. Of course, that firm is now, as you know, it's part of RSM Canada with almost 750 people. So, but still, kind of tying it back, people have asked me, why did you stay? Like, what was it that kept you there? And it's always been the people, right? Mm-hmm. People internally, but also clients. Like, I just loved servicing clients and the relationship side of that. So it was a good choice for me in hindsight. But as I said, it wasn't as intentional as perhaps some people have. Like, truthfully, who knows when they're 18 years old what they're going to be for the rest of their life, right?
The fact that you were able to grow and evolve in that organization is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's sort of, the organization took on various iterations, but I was super lucky early on, as I said, to be part of a culture where they gave responsibility. And then even as the organization evolved, the subsequent leadership still gave responsibility. So I was very lucky in that regard. Because it wasn't so much I searched it out. It was there, ready, and I took it, but it wasn't though I had to wrangle that away from anyone or had to ask for it. It was there waiting to be handed out, so to speak. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I think when people are entering and just starting their career, I know certainly I started in a small venture capital company. And because it was small, because it was based in Oakville versus downtown Toronto, you have more opportunities, would you say, in a smaller organization to, like, the sink or swim. They give you everything and anything that you're willing to take on. And I think that allows you to grow and develop perhaps faster than if you were just, in a larger organization to start with.
And I see it today just in how our organization has evolved. I don't know. I mean, certainly I like to think that we give lots of responsibility and development opportunities for our staff, but, it's a different world. And it is, all sorts of different things impact that. But I agree with you. With the fact that it's a smaller organization, your responsibilities are broader. The spectrum of responsibilities are broader. So, but yeah, I think it, again, good fortune for me as opposed to intentional. But and I say that not in jest at all, because I recognize that a lot of people don't have that same opportunity, and I think that we as leaders have to be a lot more intentional about our behavior. And just can't let things happen. We have to be more intentional today, more so than we did, 30 years ago when I started my career.
So have you seen a change in the industry as well from a women leadership perspective? So, 30 years ago, or do you feel like this industry has always been supportive towards women in growing?
I think that, accounting as a profession has been more inclusive than other industries, but I think we have a long way to go. We've been talking about women in leadership in my industry for as long as I've been in a position to talk about it. So, and I think that even within RSM, I think, we continue to grapple with it. And again, to me, it comes back to intentionality. And if we want to turn the dial and retain women in leadership roles, then we have to be super intentional about our behavior and how we support those women through advocacy, allyship, mentorship, learning and development opportunities. And to me, it comes back to intentionality. And if we want to turn the dial and retain women in leadership roles, then we have to be super intentional about our behavior and how we support those women through advocacy, allyship, mentorship, learning and development opportunities. And one of the first female partners in Deloitte, she had subsequently left Deloitte, but in Toronto. And so that was in the late 80s, early 90s. And she had since left Deloitte, but was a partner at Smith Nixon. And, I think about that, and, she was a partner there, and there was one other woman that was a partner. Subsequently, two other women made partners. We had 4 of 10 owners being partner, including one being me, which was, remarkable statistic, really. Just 40% of partnership isn't in our industry is traditionally not women. So, again, I think I was lucky in that I started in an organization where that really didn't matter. And then again, subsequently, we actually at RSM don't have that kind of ratio. And again, it's a goal, and we're working on we're working on programs and just intentionality around supporting women in leadership, so we do get there. But through my career, I was just lucky to be surrounded by both men and women who really supported the best candidate, right? And so happened that there was lots of opportunity, and if you were ambitious and asked for the opportunity, you were given it. And I recognize, as I've repeatedly said, that doesn't happen for everyone. So
yeah. And you, like you said, I think you bring up a really good point. Like, for us to be able to solve the gender gap, we need to have male allies as well, and we need to be able to support. So and I know that RSM is definitely ahead of the curve in a lot of areas and doing an incredible job. Maybe you can share some of the activities and things that you are doing with some of your employee groups, and it's phenomenal.
Sure. Yeah. So one that resonates obviously and is tied totally to Women Leadership Nation's objectives is promoting women in leadership. We have an employee network group that promotes women in leadership, and it is about again it's partly one, supporting high performing individuals, women in leadership roles, and how do we continue to progress their careers, but it's also I would say almost a third of the membership are men who want to understand and hear the stories of our women leaders and how they can promote, support, advocate for them. And, so we have leadership development training programs. We have, actually, I just completed on the weekend a series of nominations for a mentorship program that we run where women, high-performing women are I'll say formally, mentored or matched to a leader in the organization to talk to them about their career progressions and development opportunities. And it's a very formal program. So there's the informal mentoring part of it, but then there's also some formal training to help people develop the skills to be leaders. And I think as women, you're absolutely right. We need to have men who advocate or are allies for women, but we also have to advocate for ourselves. Yes. And I think it's I don't know, it's interesting. I've heard this story and you will have too, or this analogy, but if you've got a position, an open position, a role, a promotion for individuals, if you've got a man who is thinking about the opportunity, he might look at it and go, oh, yeah, that's great. And that's an advancement for my career. I'm not really qualified, but whatever, I'm going to try. Whereas a woman will look at that same role and she'll look at sort of the qualifications of the role and she'll assess herself to those qualifications. And she may or may not almost, take herself out of the running because she doesn't feel she's qualified. Like a man is all in. Yeah. And the woman will overanalyze it and may like 90%
sure that we 100 that we have all of the qualifications and the experience.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that we as women, we have to advocate for ourselves and really embrace those opportunities and take some risks too, right? But it has to be done without question with the support of others. As well. So that's really the nuts and bolts of this employee network group. It is actually, it's an employee-driven group. So these are individuals that drive all the different initiatives, do all the planning, and then we have leadership support come in and promote it. And I'm a member, and we have panel discussions all the time, and it's just really great. And we've had panel discussions where men talk about their career and how they've advocated for women. And it's great story sharing too. And I think that's the other thing that we as women have to do a better job at. And this is my own self-realization. My husband works. I have two boys, both teenagers now. And people will think, oh, I can't possibly do what Rhonda does. Like, I don't know how she keeps everything going. And it isn't all me. It takes a village. But what I don't do a good job of is sharing how I do it. Because if I started to share how I manage all these different, balls in the air, I think that people would realize, like other women that I work with that are leaders and have great opportunities would start to realize, oh, I could do that too. So I think story sharing is really important so that people appreciate it.
That's part of why I wanted to do the podcast, and especially now with COVID, because I think that a lot of stories are similar, but also there's little things that we can maybe learn from one another. So with COVID, Are you finding it's, what impact has that had on your business and also your work-life balance?
Well, on our business, I'm super grateful. It has impacted our business, but we are still able to work. It was interesting. I was actually away with my family for March break. I was one of the ones that chose to go away. And then when our office went into remote working. So within a 24-hour period, all of RSM went remote. So in Toronto, the office that I lead, we have 400 people. So within 24 hours, everyone was remote. And it's funny, I remember I was sitting on the beach and having a conference call or a WebEx. And we were talking about going remote. And one of my partners out in Alberta said, we can't possibly go remote. It's going to be the end of our business. And within 24 hours, we were remote. And a week later, that same individual had said, yeah, I can't believe it. It's working just fine. So, yeah. I mean, we were certainly blessed in that didn't happen accidentally. Our technology team was working weeks in advance of that to make sure that, everything was tested and we had the capability and the capacity to work remote. And so, yeah, that's the, most obvious impact it's had in that we're in the client service business. And typically we are face-to-face with our clients, either in their space or they're in our space. But we've been able to pivot and continue to service our clients. So our business, although it's slowed and some projects have been deferred, other parts of our business are busier. Our credits and incentives and accessing cash flow, helping clients access cash flow has become busier. So yeah, it's been interesting from a client perspective. We were laser focused on staying connected to our clients, reaching out to them. I mean, professional services is a tough space, certainly the accounting industry, in terms of how you differentiate your skill set, because all of our competitors have super smart people there as well. But where you can differentiate yourselves is in client service. And so we were really laser focused on staying close to our clients and helping our clients. And I was super proud of RSM and how we did that early on, and the marketplace thought leadership that we were able to generate. Of course, now the marketplace is inundated with thought leadership on this pandemic, and how it's impacting businesses and how we can support. But early on, I think we did lead, and I was really proud of that. And it demonstrated to our clients that we care. And so again, that helps obviously long-term. In terms of our people, truthfully, lots of concern early on connectivity to our people, right? And, probably half of our workforce live in condos in downtown Toronto. And I think about it as the office leader. I think about the impact it has on people being locked up for a number of weeks without even being able to get outside for the first little while, right, on people's mental health, and then their ability to, again, still have responsibilities at work. It was interesting. And so I created, I have these informal coffee chats regularly with people. So we were very intentional about connecting with people, both formally, informally, across the entire leadership team. And I created these informal coffee chats where I connect with 5 or 6 people a few times a week, and just to talk. Well, truthfully, I get energy from seeing people and talking to people. I'm a natural extrovert, so it was also selfish. There was some selfish purpose there as well, but just to connect with people and understand how they're doing. Yeah. Right. And again, as the market leader in Toronto, like big part of my responsibility is the culture of the office. And how do you sustain a culture remotely?
Being able to, like you said, maintain that culture, maintain that closeness. Like RSM grew from, lots of different offices coming together and becoming one large entity. You've become a great culture in that, but how do you sustain that? And that's amazing that you've been able to, the coffee and other things.
Yeah, and again, it's with intentionality and again, purpose and being really disciplined around it, because it doesn't just naturally happen. It does in an office where someone's walking down a hallway, right, and you can pop your head in, but it does have to be a little bit more prescribed now. But what's interesting to me is that, prior to COVID, I was on the phone all the time. I mean, RSM is a big organization and people all over. So you're always on the phone, or you're in an airport or an airplane and you're, traveling. But no one ever used video. We had the capability, but no one ever used it. And then COVID, and everybody immediately started using video. And that, whatever the platform you might use is, but that really creates connectivity. And like, again, as I said, I'm an extrovert. I don't know that I wouldn't be in the same mental state I am today had I not been able to see people's faces and see how they're interacting and how I'm interacting with them. And you can tell a lot, even through video, how someone's feeling, right? And just by the look on their face. So the other side of it, of course, is everybody's balancing so many responsibilities today, right? And so it's, you might have a single parent with kids and they're managing, of course, now we're in summer, thank goodness for summer holidays, but, they were managing homeschooling and their responsibilities at work, and maybe caregiving for elderly parents as well. And it was just a lot of pressure on people. And, and I think that I'm lucky. My husband is fantastic and has always stepped in and helped out tremendously, but that isn't always the case. And so a lot of the times that additional responsibility falls to, the woman in the house. And I can't even imagine as a single parent how people are doing it. And again, I think it ties back to, people have to ask for help and create community to help support you.
Also have to step up and recognize, because I think there's a great fear and great risk of women actually losing ground. Statistically, they're saying that more women are choosing to drop out of the market. And because they have to, particularly when we had to homeschool plus work plus everything else. And what type of advice do you have for companies to help ensure that they're retaining their women and giving them the support that they need through this, because we don't want to lose any ground? And maybe what advice do you have for women that are now finding themselves in this situation and still want to grow their career?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm not so, I don't think so highly of myself that I would have all the answers, but I could share just sort of my perspective and a point of view. Is I think as first starting on the employer side, I just think that employers have to be generous and have to lead with grace. Like I believe that, we charge our employee group, our team members with, the biggest asset we have. And the asset, it's not even a tangible asset. It's our relationships with our clients. And I think by far, the majority of people take that responsibility very seriously, and they know what their responsibilities are. And so allowing people the autonomy and the flexibility to do what they have to do when it works for them, recognizing that at the end of the day, we still are a client service business. And sometimes, the work still has to take priority. But again, I think be generous and accept that, most people take that most of our team members take, by and large, the far majority take that really seriously, and they're not going to disappoint. I've found people are more engaged remotely than they would have been even in the office, because people don't they want to contribute and they want to ensure the success of the business. So as employers, I just think it's really important for us to be flexible, allow the autonomy, allow people the autonomy to make to get the work done when it works for them. Right. And from the employer side, the employee side rather, I think it's so important for people to put their hand up and ask for help. People want to help, And if you're struggling, please, 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 like put your hand up and tap someone. And that's where an ally or an advocate or a mentor or a coach or, anyone you trust, just tap them and let them know you're needing a little bit of help. Because for the most part, people want to help, right? It's just human nature, and they're going to step in and help you out. But yeah, I think, and then, I mean, even supporting more formally as we have at RSM, like I have someone on my team that has taken the summer off because her husband has a job that has a lot of responsibility, and she has 2 kids who can't attend summer camp, and it was just, and her father's unwell. I think it's important to create the environment where people feel like they can have that conversation.
Yeah.
And someone's going to listen.
Right.
And it doesn't always happen, but as an employer, I was delighted to honor that request, because at the end of the day, she's going to come back in September and she's going to be as motivated and as engaged as ever, and probably even more loyal, right? Because we, so I just, yeah. And perhaps that's too much of a, I don't know what the right word is, but a folksy approach. But I just think at the end of the day, we have to be
that now, right? We need it more than ever. And there's also, I think, some good things that are going to come from this in terms of people traveling nonstop and realizing maybe that trip isn't necessary. So it's going to be really interesting to see how COVID and what we've learned from this is going to change how business operates as well.
Yeah. And I think I've talked about it with folks that, there's obviously lots of downside to COVID, but there's upside. How do you celebrate that? So the upside for me personally, I was traveling a lot. My kids were super busy doing this, doing that. And, we had lots of people helping out, of course, but it's forced us to all slow down and kind of reimagine what's important in life. And I mean, I'm having lunch every day with my kids. I wasn't able to do that before, right? And just that family time, like every night we go out for a walk together, and it's just time that we wouldn't have made the effort to undertake. And so kind of celebrate those small wins. Like, you mentioned from my career, this is pivotal, but our children too, right? Like this is like a monumental event in their lives that they're all going to look back at and say, wow. And they'll remember it fondly, and that mine, I hope, that I spent more time with my parents than I otherwise would have, right? So,
yeah, I definitely relate to that. I mean, I know my husband is super busy, and it was often he would have dinner by himself when he got home, and to be able to have him at the dinner table again and have everybody talking, and it's amazing. And that goes back to sort of also turning it into a positive from a mental health perspective for kids. With our youngest son, we've been getting him to keep a COVID journal. And so,
that's so smart.
Yeah. And so whenever there's something like in the news that's major, like when everything shut down, we would print out articles and include that. And then he has to write. Now, maybe he doesn't love this, but he'll appreciate it later. 1 page every single day. And so, it helps from a school perspective, academic perspective, but it also, when he has kids, to be able to read that and show, even the pictures of his playground where they had the police tape saying, do not cross. I mean, that's certainly in my lifetime, your lifetime, we've never seen this type of situation. Turning everything
for sure. Positive. Brilliant. I talked about it with my husband, Paul, and I was like, we should get the kids to write, but we never committed to it. So good for you, because there'll be little snippets in there that you'll read back on it in 10, 15, 20 years and go, oh yeah, remember, because you forget all the details. You remember the big, right? So, and
also being a little, like, I try at least naturally to be a little bit more forgiving for them too, because they're also dealing with some mental health issues, not being able to see their friends and not being able to, so that's really important. So maybe, I'd love some final thoughts in terms of, for women that are, wanting to grow their career and are finding this is a different world, what advice do you have for them in terms of navigating?
Yeah, I don't know that this advice is actually any different pre or post-COVID, because I think it applies to both situations. But for me, it's my advice, I guess, would be, ask for help. As I said, like if you're struggling, ask for help. Take opportunities. Embrace opportunities, advocate for yourself, build a network around yourself. And that could be peers, that could be other male leaders, female leaders. But as I said, people want to generally help. So, I have had stories where a first-year associate is, I don't want to say brave, but has the courage to come and send me a note to ask if they could talk to me about my career, right?
That's amazing. That's good.
Right. And so, and as recently as 3 weeks ago, I had a call with one of our supervisors, and he wanted to know what my career trajectory was, and just to hear the story because he wants to be a partner. Yeah. And so again, I think it's like, be courageous, create a network, take advantage of opportunities that present themselves, ask for help, always ask for help, because people generally do want to help, leverage mentors, allies, and advocates. And I think, that's sort of the responsibility of the individual. So the women who are looking to advance their careers, but then also from an employer perspective, it's so important that we create that environment where women feel like they have the ability to have a voice and where, it's an environment where they feel comfortable creating those relationships. And again, not all employers are, but it like, to me, again, I think back on my career and it was kind of a direct line. It was a bit of a okay, you started it as an 18-year-old co-op student in first year of university and you never left. But at the end of the day, it was direct, but it wasn't so intentional. It happened because I was surrounded by people that wanted to give responsibility. And equally, I wanted that responsibility, and I wasn't afraid to take it and take risks, right? So I think it's important to do that. So that would be my guidance. And again, make sure you ask for help, because I just can't say it enough. People want to genuinely help. If someone called you tomorrow and said, "Hey, Jennifer, I'm thinking about this opportunity. What do you think?" You're going to make time to talk to them.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's just a natural. So it don't go it alone, right? It takes a community. So.
And I think people are more willing to, I know certainly in starting this podcast and me reaching out to some people that I haven't known before, and them being almost more willing to be on and to be part of it, because I think that this is an environment where, things have changed and people they want to help and support and feel useful as well. So, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And
I loved it, Jennifer. Thank you.
Great.
It's so fun to talk. And like I said, I'm getting energy. I get energy from talking to new people.
Exactly.
So it's great. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much. And I think that your advice to the women, to the men, but also to other organizations, I really hope that other companies hear you, because I think that RSM is doing it really well. And I think that we need that to be able to come out of the other side stronger.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for that.
Thank you for listening to Women Leadership Nation's Breaking Barriers podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to subscribe and share the stories of inspiration and encouragement to women all around the world by forwarding it to a friend. We want to help you continue to learn and grow. Visit WLNacademy.com for additional resources, guides, training opportunities, and sign up to keep in touch so we can let you know the exciting things that are happening next. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, keep breaking barriers.